Yes, it's not shared anymore. Maybe.
What happened? Gosh. Okay. Is it back? Are we sharing it now?
No, I don't see anything.
No.
You can just do the same thing, like share
Let's see.
from below.
Okay, I think we can take it again from here. Okay. Now, are we back sharing?
Yes, I see the screen, but not the PowerPoint yet.
Okay, okay. Well, that's fine. Well, let's go on the thing as we have it now without making anything else. Afraid that we may get disturbed again. Okay. So we left it at seven, at session 7, which we wanted to discuss the Islamic nominate contract, but we started with a few points before that, an overview of Islamic finance contract, the what are the definition, effects, and general conditions of Islamic finance contract, and then we discussed also the return in Islamic finance. We left it at one of the very late points in Islamic finance, in the issue of return in Islamic finance, which is really important. It's an important point, though it is minor. Now we discussed that the return requires 4 conditions: that it must be property based, asset based, goods based, cannot be simple finance based. Uh, and it must be morally acceptable. The asset must be of the kind that is able to generate added value in itself, and that excludes debt and money, as long as money is kept in the vault. Money when it is in the vault, and of course, when it is a debt on a bank or on another economic unit, on another entity, again, both don't fit as a base for Islamic finance. And then we discussed that it's really factual additional value. If there is no real additional value created, there will be no return in Islamic finance. And we discussed a few points later.
Excuse me,
Uh,
Professor, can I just, are you sharing the PowerPoint now? Because we're not seeing the PowerPoint.
you are not seeing it, and I thought I shared it exactly
No,
the same way before.
I see the screen. I see the files in front of me, but not the PowerPoint.
Okay, I thought I'm sharing the PowerPoint, but let me see what should I do? I don't know. Let's see here where we start. Okay, should I? Oh, it says like stop sharing. Let's stop sharing. And here share again.
Okay.
And see, we want this. Uh, let's see if this is what we want. Probably this one. Yeah. Are we sharing now?
Yes, no.
Okay. I got this little window on the right side, which when it has an X on the top here. When I pushed it, I went back to the screen without sharing. But anyway, if it works this way, let's just leave it as it is. We discussed also some of the false characteristics that many people think, people who are either writing or they deal with Islamic finance one way or the other, they think they are important characteristics, but in reality, they are not. like the claim that Islamic finance must not be, or the return in Islamic finance must not be prefixed, whereas the return in lease financing or in sale financing must rather be prefixed according to Sharia. Same thing that it must not be as a percentage of capital, similar to interest. We say interest 7%, 10%, 12%, whatever, but it shouldn't be like that. That's a false characteristic. It's incorrect. It may be a percentage of capital, like in Ijara, when we lease, say, a car whose value is 50,000, we say the rent per year is 7% of its value, which is fine, 3,500. We can express it as percentage of capital. Also, we discussed the point that it cannot be LIBOR plus or LIBOR minus. It cannot take a reference, a thing that is related to interest. LIBOR is London Interbank official rate. That is rate of interest. It can be because it's irrelevant as long as the contract is Sharia compliant. Again, there is a claim that it should not be debt financing. This claim does not distinguish between debt creating or debt originating, debt based or debt creating. Debt based, yes, Islamic finance cannot be debt based. We cannot start from a debt and say, change the debt to another maturity and gain some return on that. That cannot be in Islam. But we can create a debt through sale on credit or through ijara, because in ijara, the rent is in fact a debt. Uh, and the last false claim that it should not be from it should be always from halal sources. No, we are not required to check with other people, and we are not created as gods on other people. Other people make their transactions whatever they are, and they bear the responsibility. They will be accountable by God, not by us. When we deal with them, what is required with anyone, Muslim or Kafir, doing wrong or not doing wrong, or doing good, doesn't matter. The relationship between me and that other person should be consistent with the Sharia, but I don't interfere in what he or she does in their relations with other people. That's none of my business. I cannot poke my nose in their business. Those issues we discussed them, but I started with them as kind of review, and we discussed also risk, whether risk can be sold or can be traded or can be shared or whatnot. No, not really. Each person bears the liability of own property by his own self. We reach the point of these additional conditions, which really is a way of testing the principle. Delinquency fine. If I agree with you on a sale on credit and that you should pay me the price, say, 2 months from now, and we agreed on that, the time comes and you did not pay on time. Can I include from the beginning a condition in the contract of a delinquency fine? If you delay, if you did not fulfill your responsibility on time, you have to pay some fine. Now, this really an idea, when we look at it, it confirms the principle of Islamic finance as we discussed it and the return. Now, what is the objective of a fine? A fine or a delinquency fine has two objectives. One, it is a deterrent to convince you to pay on time. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences to pay more, to pay an additional amount. Now, this additional amount, if I take it, it becomes an increment in a debt because now it's a debt that is due, say, on the maturity day. And you come 6 days or 1 month after the maturity, you want to pay me then, not at maturity, but rather a month later. Now, that to take the amount to me means that I am taking an increment in a debt. And that is exactly what is riba. What is riba? It is increment in a debt. Now, this increment, I cannot take it. Period. What do I do with it? But I have to put a fine on you, a delinquency fine in the contract. Otherwise, everybody, every debtor would not pay on time and doesn't worry, doesn't care because there will be nothing. If I don't pay on time, there is nothing. I am not hurt at all. I'm hurting others, but I'm not hurt. So that is not fair. Justice required that obligations should be fulfilled on time. Now, this is the objective of deterrent. I want to impose a fine in the contract to force you to pay on time to deter you from any delinquency. This is one objective, but are there other objectives also? Don't conventional banks, interest-based banks, don't they reschedule their debts for increment? They earn more and they do rescheduling all the time, right and left. Yes, they do, and they earn from that. And that is the same interest or riba that is not permissible in our religion and in our Sharia, which is our law. Uh, in other words, delinquency fine has another objective, which is in reality compensating the creditor for the extra time. And this is what is riba, it is haram. And so in Islamic finance contract, we need the deterrence effect of the fine, but we don't want the additional income given to the creditor. What is the solution? We impose fine, but we give it to charity. Kind of, we are forcing you to make a charity to the poor and needy because you failed to fulfill your obligation on time. Uh, we can take it, collect it from you, and give it to charity. I cannot take it to me as a creditor. Because if I take it, that will be only an increment in a debt, and that is exactly what is prohibited in our Sharia. Now, can we go one step further and ask another question? How about if, because you did not pay on time, I had to ask my lawyer and have him write you a letter threatening you, telling you that I'm going to sue you in court, I'm going to do this and that and the other, and urge you to pay on time and pay quickly without any further delay. If that happened, I may have to pay the lawyer certain amount of money. Would I be entitled for compensation for this payment? The answer to this question is definitely yes, because here is an additional cost, real actual cost, call it like out of pocket cost. I had to pay it because of your delinquency. You made a mistake, and this mistake caused me to pay this additional cost that is compensatable, because people are responsible for the consequences of their actions. It is your action that did not pay on time, and then you are liable for the consequences of that action, but the real, actual consequences. If I have to ask one of my employees to take an extra hour to write you a letter again, threatening and asking you to pay on time, etc., that cost of this extra hour should be can be charged to you, and I may collect it from the delinquency fine when I collect it. So that makes it really, I mean, the way we treat delinquency fine without considering it uh, an income to the creditor. Just one moment, please. Excuse me. This might be an important call from overseas. ألو. عليكم السلام. أنا بدأ درسي هلأ. إذا كان مو ضروري بخابرك بعد الساعة 7:30. معلش لأنه عم بحكي مع جماعة أوتاوا. أوكي يلا السلام عليكم. أهلا. Sorry for that. I'm going to jump to the point number 3, but I want to mention one thing. Notice how we treat the delinquency fine. We treat it carefully in accordance with the concept of you cannot earn from a debt, because the debt does not generate added value. But if the debtor caused any harm to me, I am entitled for compensation of that exact harm, no more and no less. I may take less, but I'm not entitled to take anything more than that. So we really implement the principle that there ought to be an asset, and that asset should be of the kind that generate added value. تذكري انك تاخدي معك اللي بدك تاخديه لهالهدي. Let me jump to point number 3 here, stealing on profit, and then I come back to number 2. The three of them really confirm the principle. Let's take the stealing on profit. Now, we deal together on any kind of transaction. Suppose I am your agent and I take my agency as percentage of the net asset value, like they do in the mutual funds in United States and Canada. The agent, the manager of the fund, takes a percentage of the net asset value, say 1% of the net asset value. And let's say for simplicity, they calculated every year. Actually, in America, they calculated on weekly basis every Friday. But for simplicity, we take it's 1% per year, and it is only we take it at the end of the year as one shot. Now, uh, I give to my agent funds for investment in, say, in halal shares and their like, and the agent uses them as instructed exactly. At the end of the year, we find that the the total profit, the 1% made for him or her, actually, for the agent, made, let's suppose, $25,000. Can we from the beginning say if the agent's fees come to be anything more than 20,000, he or she will be sufficed with 20,000 and leave the extra to me, won't take anything beyond the 20,000. So, in other words, we are making it's 1% to a maximum of 20,000. That's permissible because we didn't do anything wrong in relation to here are assets that generate income, and the income is generated, and the income is distributed to both of us together. Now, let's take it in another way. Can we make the agreement in such a way that I gave the agent $1 million, and throughout the year he was buying and selling, say, permissible shares of companies that produce permissible products, and the exclusions anyway are not much. We exclude banks and anything that produce liquor or anything that is prohibited. Oh, fine. But the profit came to be 350,000 throughout the year. The agent got 1%, which is 135,000. Whereas I got the 1 million plus 350, and that is, of course, minus the 135,000. I got more than 1,200,000. Can we make an agreement from the beginning? If my income out of this transaction throughout the year happen to be anything more than 15% of the capital, then the remainder goes to the agent. Yes. So here the ceiling can be put on either party in this kind of contract or relationship, financing relationship in a mutual, like a mutual fund. Uh, can we take the other way around? Can we say that there must be not a ceiling, not a roof, not a maximum, but a minimum? That here is $1 million, and you, Mr. Agent, is going to invest it for me, provided that you are going to pay me 11 or 1,100,000 at the end of the year. That is a minimum profit. Can I make a minimum profit? The answer is no. A minimum profit means that the capital is guaranteed, the 1 million is guaranteed, and also along with it, the additional 100,000 as profit is also guaranteed. That makes it really pure interest, because the moment you guarantee the principal, and of course, here in this case, guaranteeing an extra, an excess above the principal, that makes it really a loan, because a loan is guaranteed, but not an investment. Guaranteeing an investment by the agent with whom I have that relationship, who is really investing my money in the market, that makes it really uh, a principal guaranteed, and also an addition which is also guaranteed. That is not permissible in Sharia. That makes it really interest. So, because what is interest other than guaranteed addition over a guaranteed amount, principal? So it makes it really like exactly a debt with an increment, and that is not permissible. If we take the same rule and apply it on the agent, can I give the agent in our agreement a condition that I guarantee you a minimum amount, Mr. Agent? Would that be permissible? I'm going to answer this question here and say yes. Why? Because here is the price of his work. When I guarantee him an amount, the agent really becomes to me like an employee. I am employing that agent for that amount, say 50,000 only, regardless of whether I make profit or I make loss, I make big profit or small profit. Even if my profit was less than the amount I guarantee him, I am still required to guarantee him the minimum amount I guarantee, because it becomes simply a price of his or her labor. So notice how we confirm the principle here. When we talk about an agent with a minimum amount guaranteed for his work, that agency becomes employment. And in employment, we always guarantee the price. We have to pay the price of the man hours or the human hours the other person puts for me as per the contract. So I have to pay that regardless of the results of his work. Now, of course, we have some exception, or if he did not fulfill because of violating the contract or because of visible, clear negligence or anything like that, well, of course, I can go back on him for the effect of his or her work or action. Each person is responsible, naturally, to bear the consequences of own actions. Now we come to the third point, which is also interesting and confirms the same principle. What is interest? In a relationship between two persons, interest is an increment in a debt. Nothing beyond that, nothing other than that. And why it is prohibited? Because the debt does not create a baby debt. So it is definitely, it goes without discussion, without argument, that it's obvious it shouldn't be. So this is why interest is prohibited. Now, how about if another person, my neighbor, I have a contract with X, and my neighbor, whose name is Y, comes in and tells me, well, listen, this X is a good person. I wouldn't mind. I really recommend you to make trade with him, take him as your agent, and if you make any loss, I am willing to compensate you. I'll pay from my own pocket. I'll pay you the amount of the loss. Why does he do that? Because he's a good man. He wants to promote the business and the activity of the other person, the ex. And he wants me to invest also my money, and he feels that most likely I will make good in that investment. So to encourage me, he does that. Now notice he uses his own money, his own liberty to do whatever he likes to do with his own property. Notice we are applying the principle that we studied earlier, which is ownership means a complete authority over an asset or a thing. He owns whatever he owns of properties, and he wants to use it to guarantee me an amount. He's not part of the contract with X, between me and X, and he does not make any benefit out of this contract. That doesn't mean he doesn't know us. He's my neighbor, he knows me, and he knows also X. And he described him as a good person. So it's fine. But notice he is using his own money. I am not getting. Suppose this X, when I appoint him as my agent, he made loss, and the 1 million ended up becoming 950,000 at the end of the year. The neighbor Y would step in and pay me the 50, and that will be okay, fair. He does what he likes with his own money, and he committed himself to this kind of guarantee. And out of his benevolence, out of his concern for promoting the business between me and X. This is permissible. Yes, it is permissible in Sharia because it's not based at all on interest. Interest is paid by the other party normally. And this is based on a person who does not benefit from this contract, who is alien to this contract, and that person has the authority over his own property and he can do whatever he likes with it. So why not, if he decided to be so benevolent with the use of his own money, and he uses it as a guarantee? And notice how we called it. It is a third party guarantee, meaning a party who is completely independent from the two parties and completely independent from the transaction between the two parties. That is permissible, and that is based on a different principle, not on the principle of interest, but rather in the principle that each owner has the full freedom to do whatever he likes with his own property. Now, with this understood, and notice how all of them, the three of them, can be used, in fact, in Islamic finance contract, but they are they do not violate the principle of the prohibition of interest. Uh, let's go now to number fourth, which is our subject for today. And I hope, okay, for today, since all of you, I think, made the homework for session 7 until this part, I'm not going to ask you to make a homework for this session. So today is going to go without homework because it's only continuation of session 7. Okay. Our fourth point is we go back to Islamic finance contracts. What are they? Historically, I classify them into two sets. Classical contract, which are called in the classical fiqh literature, are called nominate contracts. Now, these contracts are nominate because they have names and they are well defined historically, and those definitions have been there for over 1,000 years and accepted without any dispute. We have new contracts that were created as hybrid by putting two contracts together or by putting conditions from two contracts together. but they are still consistent with Sharia. These are contracts that were created because of the Islamic financial intermediation. Remember, we discussed earlier the Islamic financial intermediation, and we said that in reality, the Islamic financial intermediation, or call it the Islamic bank, what the Islamic bank does is really two kinds of intermediation at the same time. We intermediate between the savers, the units in the economy who have excess funds that they don't need them for the time, and users of funds, businesses or consumers who needs funding. This is one kind of intermediation, but also the difference between Islamic financial intermediation and interest based financial intermediation is that in interest based financial intermediation, that's all what they do. But in Islamic financial intermediation, we do another additional part, additional kind of intermediation, that is, we buy the goods from the supplier and make them available to the user of funds. So we do a kind of commercial intermediation, but with limited nature, which we will discuss as we go by. So this hybrid contract became necessary because of this function. We are doing this dual function at the time, at the same time, concurrently, and we will be liable toward our investors, toward the units that have excess funds in fund manner, whereas we make the transaction with the users of funds in commodity manners. We buy goods and give them to users of goods. We don't give them cash as fund, as financing. So this hybrid contract became necessary to fulfill the conveniences of this kind of business model, the business model of Islamic financial intermediaries, which is really dual intermediary at the same time. Okay, we are going to study the classical contract and the hybrid contract, but give me time, please. Today, we will study only one part of the classical nominate contract. So the classical nominate contract are either sale or lease or sharing. There is tabarru' that is donation kind of contract. It is really a finance contract, but it is not for profit. So those that are for profit are sale, lease, and sharing. Hybrid contract can be also classified in two categories. Traditional, we have murabaha. Murabaha literally means that we have a mutual agreement on the amount of profit. It is derived from the word ribh, which is profit. It's a mutual agreement on the amount of profit that we agree on above the principal or the cost of the item. BBA is very similar to Murabaha, is abbreviation of three words: بيع بثمن agile. This is a term that is more used in Southeast Asia, especially in Malaysia. It is also used in Brunei. Any one of you knows where is Brunei? Please answer me. Do you know where is Brunei? Brunei is part of an island because the other part of that same island is part of Malaysia, and the other part is also belongs to Indonesia. So it is part of that island on the north part of it, and a small part, a tiny country, but it is Muslim majority country. It's kind of kingdom. It's ruled by a king, or maybe he calls himself emperor or prince or whatever. But anyway, he's kind of king. It's kind of kingdom, and it is oil-rich country. So this is what makes its name really common in the international market, because it is an oil-rich country and it sells a lot of oil. It lives really essentially on oil export. Indonesia also uses the same term. In the Middle East, they use only murabaha. The distinction between murabaha and the BBA is not really scientific, but sometimes in the actual use, they use it in Malaysia, especially, and in Brunei also. They use it for when they make it not really true. They buy from you and sell to you on a credit later. Buy from you cash an item, say your car, and sell it back to you on a credit. This is, they call it personal finance. They use very often the word BBA for it, and they don't use the word murabaha. But technically, they are the same. We will look at investment deposit later. We will look at what is called parallel salam and at istisna. These parallel istisna, these are traditional. When we discuss sale today, we are going to discuss the salam sale. It's a kind of sale, which we will discuss it, and istisna sale. Again, we will discuss it, inshallah, today. But there are some contracts that were used more recently, I should say, mostly in the new millennium. Recent means now 25 years. We are not talking about a small number of years. But for me, who is in my middle 80s, this is not really a big number of years, okay? This is only the last quarter of my life only. So that's not a big thing. That's why I call them new. They are really new, but they are, يعني they are at least quarter of a century old. The traditional are half a century old. They have become known by everybody. These new ones have not become known yet by everybody. We will discuss them later anyway. So we go back now quickly to classical nominate finance contract, and these we will discuss from them specifically the sale finance contract. And here we will discuss sale on credit, deferred payment sale. Deferment could be either for one payment in the future or for payment on installment in the future. So it is anyway, you may like to call it sale on credit or deferred payment sale. The other kind of sale we will also discuss is called salam, and the third one is istisna. So we'll start with the first one, the deferred payment sale. It is a finance sale contract, of course, of an object, could be goods or services, and goods could be any real goods, even abstract goods like a computer program, for instance, can be a subject of this kind of sale. Anything that is suitable for sale can be suitable also for deferred payment sale, which is a finance sale based contract. Of course, at a uh, at a consensual price which is higher than the cash payment price. So we both know the cash payment price is, say, 100. But here, because you are paying me 3 months later, we agree that you pay me 107, for instance. And I wouldn't accept. I accept if you pay me now, I'll accept 100. But I wouldn't accept 100 if you are going to pay me 3 months from now. So deferred payment sale is mentioned in the classical books of fiqh, and it is mentioned also in there that it may be at a price which is higher than the well-known cash price, which is known to both parties. We both know that if it is for cash payment, it's 100. But you don't want to pay now for any reason. It's up to you to decide what. You are going to pay me 3 months later, so we agree on 107. It can then be at a higher than the cash price. And that is the meaning of financing in it, because here financing is provision of goods whereby the counterpart is not made at the time of the contract, but rather at a future date. So here, the price is higher than the cash price, the delivery is immediate, and the payment is at a future date that we both agree on. Okay, and as a definition, as it is mentioned here, it is a finance sale contract of an object, goods, or assets at a consensual higher than the cash payment price, with delivery of the sold object at the time of contract and payment at a future date. Sale on credit, that's what it is. The price is normally higher than the cash price uh, for the same object if payment were to be at the time of the sale. The difference between the two prices is compensation for financing. Now notice, is compensation for financing permissible in Sharia? Yes, because it is not an increment in a thing that does not generate increment. It's not an increment in a debt. It's a different price at different time of a commodity. And that is exactly recognizable naturally by human mind, and also at the same time is recognized and permissible in Sharia. Now, when we talk about deferred payment price, is it a condition in it that the buyer must know what is the amount of cash price and what is the amount of increment because of the financing? No, he may not know. He may or may not know. May know that or may not. Simply, the contract here cannot be paid, the contract cannot be made, into prices. 100 if you pay me now, and 107 if you pay me a month later. That cannot be. And why? We will discuss it in a moment. But let's look at the verse in the Quran. It says, and God made sale permissible uh, and prohibited riba. وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. That is clear. This is a kind of sale. It is permissible. This is verse number 275 of Surah number 2. But again, this is confirmed in the verse which is called as the verse of debts. That comes the eighth verse after the first one. It's 283 in Surah number 2, Surah Al-Baqarah. This is the longest verse in the Quran. It's a full page, whereas you find many verses are 3 words or 2 words or one line or 2 lines. This is really a full page, 15 lines in the Quran. When you read it, you notice that it talks about debts. When you make a transaction, a debt-based or a debt transaction, in fact, when it says when you create a debt, put that in writing and make it witnessed also by witnesses. So, but this is another issue. The verse talks about debt, and debt confirm the idea that the sale on credit is included in the word sale that is mentioned in the verse 275. So, as if it were, if sale creates credit, then it is also permissible like any other sale. So, this is really the essence of the idea. If we take the mechanism, how are the steps of the transaction? Deferred payment sale at a higher than the cash price. Take an example, for instance, is the Kuwait Finance House, which is a major Islamic bank in Kuwait, and it has many branches in other countries, including Istanbul, where I live. I bank with it in Istanbul here. So it gives sale on credit, sale of goods from inventory on credit. That's step number one. And it makes a full example of this very classical sale, because Kuwait Finance House has some showrooms for some kind of items like household appliances, refrigerators and washer machines and dishwashers and the like, microwave, etc. They have inventory of it, and they buy them on their own. They may sell you on credit, say one item of these to the customer, and the customer will sign a promissory note. He will pay this amount, say, at a future date, at a price, so and so. And on the day of maturity in the future, payment will be done. Uh, Now, look at the last word here that is here in these 2 steps of the transaction, or rather really 3 steps. Promissory note is given, and then payment in fulfillment of the promissory note is made later. The sentence below that refers to an interesting idea. It may be murabaha or it may be musawama. Remember, we discussed murabaha and musawama, and we said murabaha is when the seller discloses the cost price and the amount of profit. And musawama, when he does not disclose but only discuss with you a sale price. So it can be either way as long as they agree on it. This is the deferred payment sale. It's rarely practiced in Islamic banks today because no Islamic bank other than Kuwait Finance House have an inventory of any kind of goods. All other Islamic banks in all countries, in Pakistan, in Malaysia, in Saudi Arabia, in in Egypt, in Morocco, in Turkey, all Islamic banks don't have any inventory of goods. They'll buy the goods on request of the customer, not that they have inventory. So they really don't practice deferred payment sale. But we need to take it, understand it, because it's going to be the base for what we will discuss later in in the traditional contract that became well known and practiced everywhere in the Muslim world. So let's go to the next one. And after taking a sip of water, the next one is salam sale. As a definition, it's exactly the opposite. It's a sale of deferred delivery of goods and immediate payment at the time of contract. So here, the delivery will be, say, after 3 months, but you pay now. And guess what? Can you tell me how would the price be? Would it be higher or lower than the cash price where you take delivery now and you pay now? Would it be higher or very often it will be lower? Anyone can answer me? You guys, did I make any one of you sleeping? Are you guys with me? Anyone, please take the microphone and answer me. How do you expect the price to be here in this kind of sale where you take delivery later and pay now? Would it be higher than the cash price or lower than the cash price? Anyone can answer? Are you guys with me? Hello?
Yes, we are with you, Ismail.
Okay, can you answer that question? What do you expect the price in this case to be higher or lower than the cash price?
I think it's going to be higher.
No, it's going to be really lower because you are not taking delivery. You pay now and you got delivery later.
Oh,
It's going to be,
delivery is
it's
going to be later.
exactly the opposite of sale on credit. It's exactly the opposite. Sale on credit, you take the item now and use it, benefit it, and pay 3 months later, for instance. Whereas here, you pay now, and the seller takes the money, use it for whatever he wants to do with it, and then will deliver to you the goods 3 months later. So this is expected to be at lower than the cash price. In other words, here it is a way of financing the producer. You give the producer finance for the producer to use the resources now to enable him to produce the goods that you agree with. Delivery will be later. For instance, you finance the farmer, he buys seeds and pesticides and other fertilizers, etc., and labor also, plow the land, pay all these costs. 6 months later, the harvest come and he will deliver to me part of that harvest. And this is here kind of financing the supplier. And uh, definitely, I expect the price to be lower because I am paying now without getting the commodities. I'll get the commodities later. So this is the exactly the opposite of the sale on a credit. But now, if we go to another slide, which is gives really the kind of dynamics or the steps of this contract, there will be advance payment. There will be a promise, a contract to deliver in future. It will create debt in kind. The farmer becomes a debtor to the Islamic bank for not an amount of cash, but rather an amount of wheat or barley or date or any other product. Generally, farming, it's used in farming. It was used basically in farming at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it can be used in any other kind of item, as long as you describe the item and the date of delivery very well at the time of the contract. So there would be no dispute later. So here you pay advance and you get only a contract and a debt in kind that will be paid later or delivered in a future time. And then when the future time comes, delivery is effected, is done. Okay? Now, this kind of contract requires certain conditions to be really practiced, successful. It was practiced at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is clear. And it is studied in classical fiqh books. But let's look at its economic conditions for its usability, especially when we talk today in by Islamic banks. Of course, there must be full description of the sold goods and the price, kind, quantity, types, format, quality, etc. Full description of the item. Second condition, definite time and place of delivery. Third condition is interesting. It should be for it doesn't apply to any commodity at any time. It should be for a commodity that may normally be available at the time of delivery. For instance, date in Saudi Arabia matures on the palm trees in the month of July and August. So you cannot sell date in Saudi Arabia to be delivered in January, because in January there is no date. Nowadays, there is date even in January. Yesterday, I bought some date here in Istanbul, just yesterday. And this comes, of course, from refrigerators. It's been refrigerated since maybe August or July, and it is fresh. It's the kind that is fresh, that if you leave it outside for a day or two, it will be spoiled. I bought yesterday this kind here from the market, in Istanbul, and it is the kind of fresh date which they call it what I forgot the name. It comes to my mind. Fresh, that you eat it fresh. Of course, it comes from refrigerators. So when before refrigeration, you cannot sell date for December or January delivery. Same thing applies, say, on wheat, on Canadian soft wheat. Yes, you can sell it, usually delivery for the harvest, which is in July or in June. In July, I am originally from Syria. From May and June, you find delivery harvest for wheat in Syria. So that is permissible then. In other words, this condition is very important because, especially when you finance farmers, if my farm did not produce this year for any reason, insect or bad fertilizers or drought that came and I could not produce my farm, all the seeds were killed because of the heat. And my farm did not produce anything. The contract is still should be fulfilled, and I have to go back, go to the market, buy the wheat that I committed to deliver, and deliver it on time. In other words, this is a fait complete contract. It is done deal. I have to deliver it. This is why this condition is necessary. Condition number 3. The condition should be such that it is usually available in the market at the delivery date. Now, the fourth condition relate to a hadith that comes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he determined 4 items, which we will come to study it anyway later. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam determined 4 items. Sorry, 6 items. 6 items. 2 of them are gold and silver, and others are other items that people use. And he said that when you deal with these 6 items, the deal has to be hand to hand. And here, by definition, salam has deferred delivery. So it's not hand to hand. It's not immediate payment and immediate delivery at the time of contract. It's only immediate payment and deferred delivery. Then you cannot make it in these 6 items that the Prophet ﷺ made the condition that when you deal with them, you need to deal hand to hand, and they became known in the classical fiqh as items, ribawi items, items where riba may apply. So you cannot sell, for instance, wheat against barley with salam. You cannot sell gold for silver with salam. Condition number 5, payment should be at the time of the contract. So payment should be done now. It cannot be delayed. Okay? So that's by definition. This is part of the definition of the contract. So these conditions are for salam are necessary. The next slide talks about the economics of this contract. Really, in order to implement this contract, you need guarantees of delivery. You may need collateral to take from the farmer. How would you guarantee that he's going to deliver to you at the required time? You need price stability, because what will happen to you if the delivery time comes, delivery is made to you, but the price is very low at that time. So you make a big loss on this transaction. You expected to make profit on it, as you financed you got it at lower prices, but at the time of delivery the price was even much lower. So to be able to use this kind of contract, you need price stability. Uh, and you need presence of a functional market of that commodity. If the market is rarely, you have only very few transactions in the market for this kind of commodity, really you cannot make this salam, this kind of financing. Now, why I'm saying that? Because of an important thing, which is, notice, deferred payment sale is difficult to practice in Islamic banks. And we notice that only Kuwait Finance House in Kuwait was able to do it, because it has inventory of home appliances. But it cannot do it on every item also. Maybe if I want, say, a table, they don't have tables. They have major industrial items like refrigerators, like washer machines, like dishwashers, like microwaves, but they don't have tables, they don't have carpets. I need curtains for my apartment, and they don't have curtains, for instance. So it's not easy. Now, even Kuwait, go outside Kuwait Finance House, not a single Islamic bank has inventory of any goods. So really, it's difficult to practice in financing today. Same thing, this contract, Salam, it requires these three conditions: delivery guarantee. What will happen to me if the farmer did not deliver? What will happen to me if prices were variable, so much variable that they went low to the bottom at the time of delivery? That I gave financing to make profit, but I ended up making huge loss. And it requires a market that is functional, that has traffic in it, heavy traffic, not a market that has only very few transactions in a year or in a month or in a day or whatever. It needs a vivid, active market. Without these conditions, it's very difficult to really use Salam for any Islamic bank. I am saying this because in our next session, next Sunday, we will discuss why people invented these contract that I mentioned: Murabaha, BBA, parallel Salam, parallel Istisna, simply because Islamic banking could not work simply on the basis of these classical nominate contract. Okay? So the next slide is Istisna sale. To make the long story very short, Istisna is a kind of salam, but we make one condition relaxed. Payment need not to be at the time of contract. You can pay at any time. Okay, there is another condition here, that in Istisna, the item you sell on Istisna must be manufactured one way or the other, because the word istisna means to have the other person manufacturing it, is to ask for manufacturing of an item. So you go to a carpenter and you want a table, and you agree on the description of the table, the material of it, etc. He'll tell you, okay, I'll deliver it in a week. You may pay him now. You may agree with him, I'll pay you upon delivery. Or I even pay you 2 weeks after delivery, or 1 month after delivery, or any period after delivery. Or you can pay him in advance. Both ways can work for it. So it is a contract, but uh, it kind of finance the supplier in industry and not in farming. More often, or naturally, or in almost all the cases, the salam contract used to be practiced in agriculture, whereas the istisna contract used to be practiced with craftsmen, carpenter, blacksmith, jewelry smith, and goldsmith and the like. Those who maybe people who make clothes, tailors, and so on. This is the kind of the contract that it is exactly like salam, but with the relaxation of the prepayment condition. Payment can be made at any time. With this, I come to the end of today's discussion, and thank you very much. We didn't take our the full hour. I see we have by now 9 people with us. I think the 10 here I see on the screen includes me, right? Okay, if you have any question, please go ahead. It's your time now. If you don't have any question, خلاص, we'll see you next week, inshallah. Any question?
Yes, Sister Mariam, you can go. Mhm.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Alaikum salam.
I had a question about the third condition of the Selim contract, that it has to exist in the market at the delivery date. But if, for example, the farmer's harvest went bad and they couldn't fulfill the contract and they have to buy dates, for example, from another seller, then doesn't that go against the first condition of the Selim contract, that you have to give a full description?
No, that will be the same description. They have to give, because not part of the description that it should be from your own farm. The description, that's why we said description of the item, not determination of its place or from where it is produced. It is description of the item that, like, say, for instance, soft Canadian wheat, or hard Siberian wheat. Or so the description of it, and how long is the grain, and so on, what is the weight of the grain. There are different kinds of wheat. Not all wheats is the same. Some wheat is suitable for macaroni, some wheat is suitable for bread. So this is the meaning of description. But if you say from that specific farm, that would be wrong, because that condition is inapplicable. So, as you said, suppose the farm did not produce that. What will happen to the contract? The contract remains there because you took its price and you have to deliver now. So you go in the market and buy the same kind of wheat with the same description and deliver it.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
Mhm.
Also, then, is it allowed? I know that because it's a debt for the farmer to deliver the goods to the customer, so it wouldn't be allowed for him to increase the price, but can he lower the price because it's from a different market or something?
You mean lower the price after we agreed on it?
Yeah,
How come? I mean, if we
like
agree on a price, and you can't make a force lower. Why should I don't want to lower. Can you force me? In other words, I don't want to lower the amount of debt that is on you. You are required to deliver to me 1,000 kilo of date of certain quality. There is not at least 70 kinds of date now in the market. Yesterday, I found about maybe 12 or 13 kinds of date, and they were not inclusive, only those that were imported from Saudi Arabia here in Istanbul. So there are 70 kinds of you define which kind and which quality, even of each kind there are different sizes. You have the small, the medium and the big, like in when they sell eggs, small, medium and large. So in date, it's exactly also the same, small, medium, and large. So you have 70 times, more than 70 actually, times three. So all this description should be specific, and delivery should be of the same kind of description.
okay, I understand. Jazakallah khair.
And I don't want to lower the amount. We agreed that you give me 1,000 kilo. Why should I accept giving me, say, because your farm did not produce, you give me now 900 kilo because you are going to buy them from the market? No, it's your problem. You made a loss. But everybody in transactions, some people make gains, some people make loss sometimes. So you made a loss in these transactions. It's your liability to it. I suppose I don't want to reduce the amount. It's you have to deliver to me. You are required to deliver 1,000 kilo. I won't accept anything less than that amount. That's it. I want to give charity. It's my mercy to you because you are poor guy. That's a different issue. But contract is a contract, is
Okay,
to be fulfilled. Okay. Any other
okay,
question? You're welcome. Okay. طيب, see you then next week, inshallah. We will take session 8. Assalamu alaikum.
جزاكم الله خير بروفيسور وعليكم السلام.
بارك الله فيكم.